we move back over to the Cowboys? And I was intrigued by this. Asked Steven about this yesterday, and we're going to get a little bit of feedback from him in just 1 second. But obviously, CeeDee Lamb's not here yet. His return feels imminent, much like Zach Martin last year. But what do you think about the receiver room outside of just CeeDee Lamb? Because we know how good CeeDee Lamb is. I wanted to throw it to cut number 6. This is Stephen Jones talking about the wide receiving core outside of CeeDee Lamb yesterday.
Well, you just mentioned them all. I mean, not them all, but a lot of the guys that we're fired up about. I mean, you do have certainly Brooks is a long guy who's making plays right away out there. Turp, we've all seen the plays he can make on special teams. And then I think they'll continue to figure out ways to get him the ball in space because he's dynamic. When he's got the ball in his hands. And then, of course, Tolbert, I think he's just starting where he left off last year. He made a big jump last year. He's making plays out there in my mind, and Dak's getting more and more confidence in him. So, those and, of course, Cooks is a guy who's just he has success every year he plays. So I think we got a great group. Obviously, CD will be in here at some point, and
next week
I think we got a good. I wish I knew. I wish I had that crystal ball.
It'd be great if he was.
It would be great, but and then that tight end group's strong too in terms of our weapons, and it's great to have Zeke back out there again.
Yeah, he had to cut it off right there. Reggie, hold on, that's not a receiver group. I didn't ask about that.
Yeah, he started talking about the running backs and everything.
Yeah.
I'm a little. Sorry for me to focus in on this part of it because I know there's another conversation on this, but Jalen Tolbert made a great leap last year, he said. He had 36 targets, which was 33 more targets than he had his rookie year.
Heck yeah, man, that's almost 2 a game.
268 yards. He had 268 yards total. He had 12 yards his rookie season, and then he had 2 touchdowns. That seems more like the 2023 season seems more like a rookie season than his rookie season did. His rookie season was a wash.
He didn't exist.
Yeah,
almost.
And then last year he has 268 yards. That's going to have to be a pretty magnificent leap this year from where he was, because he says he's just picking up where he left off last year. And maybe I need to look at game logs to try and see where he was at the end of the season last year. But man, Jalen Tolbert has a lot of work to do to make any sort of impact on this thing.
A lot of people have been focusing in on him, Mike. Like for yard marker, for example, one potential fast riser on every team's depth chart, Jalen Tolbert. You'll see stories out there. Is Jalen Tolbert finally going to take the big leap? So maybe it's because the Cowboys are making some of those projections through what they're saying, but it does seem like a lot of different places have focused in on Jalen Tolbert as is now the time for this dude.
One, when you go to training camp and you're just focused on one team, you'll watch 10 wide receivers the first 2 weeks of training camp and go, my God, these guys are talented. But you're only comparing them to normal human beings. You're not comparing them to the other 300 wide receivers in training camps to start off late July. I'm not optimistic on Jalen Tolbert, to be honest. I think he's like a 4th wide receiver who's going to have like a 4 or 5 year career in the NFL and then be done. And that's beating the odds. An NFL career on average is 3 years. I think he'll barely beat the odds of having, over a 3-year career. I don't see anything special from him. I don't see anything special from the group outside of CeeDee Lamb, and that's why I think if I'm a defensive coordinator against the Dallas Cowboys this year, especially with the crap running backs that they have, is I go, we are going to try to take CeeDee Lamb out of almost every play, and we are going to see if Dak Prescott can throw the ball to probably Ferguson will be his next number 1 option.
I think that is
and then the other wide receivers and see if those running backs can do anything. We're not even going to concentrate on stacking the box or anything like that. We don't believe that they can run the ball. Give Zeke a huge hole. He'll run for 8 yards. If we only have 6 in the box and Zeke gets an easy hole, we'll still catch him after 8 to 12 yards. We don't have to worry about anything after that. So, and this is not a shot at Dak, even though it's going to sound like one. There's very few quarterbacks in the NFL. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is in a category by himself. maybe we'll see what Josh Allen can do this year with his receiving core, is when you give a team average, like let's just say CeeDee Lamb had to miss a few games because of injury.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to lose. It's an automatic loss. Dak cannot overcome. We saw it's earlier in his career, but he cannot overcome not having a super stud wide receiver.
Yeah, man. I'm kind of thinking about the way that this. I watched Devontae Adams get kind of built that way in a game where they said, hey, we're putting 3 guys on him. We're going to frustrate the hell out of him today. And it was frustrating until they figured out how to unlock that just a little bit. The Cowboys got to do that, man. But, yeah, I mean, Jalen Tolbert's leap is going to have to be significantly more. And, Kevin, when I'm looking at the game stats, there was a lack of targets.
Yeah.
I mean, like, 1 target a game here. He had a stretch where he had 5. There were two or three games where he had 5 in a row, 5 targets in a row. He caught 2, he caught 3, he caught 2. So what we saw the other day, Kevin, he made a pretty good snag over here. You remember that?
Yes.
That was a nice little snag.
That was a really
He's
good catch.
He's got to gain Dak Prescott's confidence, because having the quarterback's confidence and knowing I can go ahead and deliver it to that guy, that's why he's so comfortable with CeeDee. He knows CeeDee, but he's got to get comfortable with those other guys too.
Okay, a couple of questions to go along with that then. First of all, I mean, we can talk about what that jump would look like, whether that's in terms of give me an average of 4 targets per game, or I'm looking for 600 yards.
Yeah, there were a lot of games non-existent,
yes.
Or maybe 1 target and he didn't get that.
Okay, so maybe we significantly lessen. I'm sure there's going to be 1 or 2 where he's non-existent, but like significantly lower that number. And then my other question, and y'all have kind of addressed this with how you would attack this team defensively, I wanted to ask, can Dak spread the ball around consistently enough? But then I thought, I sometimes I honestly think that's overrated when they're like, oh, you got to have balance in terms of the way you're distributing the ball.
Game by
Sometimes I'm like,
game.
not really, because you're going to find a game where you're like, I don't know, CeeDee's catching literally everything, or Ferguson is getting that space every time. Go to him every time.
You know what I hate? I hate to see is whenever a cornerback on the other side gets injured, and they don't go, let's attack this dude and see if he can stop our best guy. Let's find a way to mismatch on this guy. The quarterback knows it. The coach knows it. The receiver knows it. Everybody in the stadium knows, hold on, that dude just went out there, and they don't game plan to do it. So, yeah, Kevin, it is a game-by-game kind of situation when you're trying to figure out how the ball gets spread around because, like you just said, or it could be one of those days where you're just like, look, man, we got them in a blender right now. They don't know what to do. So we have everybody open all day. I feel like there's a lot of times where you draw it up and you're like, Brandin Cooks is this deep threat downfield that's kind of a decoy for everything else underneath. Well, at some point, you got to connect with Brandin Cooks in order to make that continue to be a deep threat that backs those safeties off.
I saw a pass in practice the other day where Dak actually outthrew Brandin Cooks. and I know people will be like, well, that's not good. I get it. You want to connect every single time.
It would be better because isn't Brandin Cooks is a wide receiver?
Yeah, yes. that is
saying they're having a throwing contest?
No. That is a fair point. He threw the ball further than Brandin Cooks could run to. And so I know you'd prefer if they connect every single time. But I was like, okay, good. You get tired of seeing the underthrown pass.
Was he throwing towards the hotel or away from the hotel? Do you remember?
He was throwing toward the hotel.
Wow.
I don't know what the wind.
That's impressive.
I don't know what the wind was like that day, but yes, Mike, to your point, I have no doubt that in an actual throw for throw competition that Dak Prescott would be victorious over Brandin Cooks, and if not, I don't really know what we're doing.
Cooks has a hidden talent that we don't know about, that we never knew that he was
why the hell aren't we running more trick plays?
Maybe he's not accurate.
Him throw the ball.
Maybe he's got a cannon of an arm, but he's not accurate. He's like one of those bullhorn shotguns. You just don't know where it's going to go.
I know we're talking about wide receivers. Is Trey Lance as bad as everybody's making it out to be?
He had one day that I thought was good.
He had a session, Mike, that I was like, okay, I can get with that. And then immediately when they got into team stuff, it looked like he was afraid to pull the trigger. He's running out of bounds. I was like, man, there's open guys over here, and you're not seeing them. And then the throws are missing right now.
So
yes,
COVID was a great thing that somewhat happened for his financial pocket.
Yeah,
well,
him getting to do the one showcase game was what you needed.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do wonder too if reps and all that stuff have been limited injuries wise, and the growth of him as a player.
And I agree with all of that. I also think, Mike, like, he hasn't looked great so far, but I also think he hasn't looked great per, like, the scale that some people seem to be putting on him, which is, could he replace Dak today? Which is an absurd.
The answer's no.
That is an absurd thing to
take
hope
a step.
for.
You take a tremendous
him.
step back if that happens.
Yes, and so I think some people are like, "Oh, Dak would have made that throw," and I'm like, "Yeah, because he's way better than Trey
He's
Lance."
a 40, maybe 50, maybe $60 million quarterback. Of course,
Hey,
he's going to make those
Better
throws.
give him 60.
Maybe 70.
Maybe 70.
No,
We don't know how.
I'm
We don't know
gonna-
where the number is going to go, man.
I'll go ahead and
Dude.
go out on a limb.
Kevin, have all the leaves fallen?
Yeah.
I feel like most of them have.
I
I
feel like
don't
a
know
lot
if
of
you've
leaves have
heard
come
or
back.
not, but Dak finished second in MVP voting last year.
I did. I think 70 million is very, very, very unlikely.
By
I
the
could
way-
see 60 million.